Hi, I'm Cameron Bozzi. I'm the Vice President of Marketing with Costa Maine Brands, and I'm here with Dustin Frey, who is part of the Frey family, and Frey Brands, which is also part of Costa Maine Brands. And Dustin, I wanted to have you on. You and I have talked before, but to get a little history about the facility. What I have behind me is an image that I think, did you take that picture that's behind you?
Yes, I did.
Which is a beautiful picture. And we have an incredible facility down there. And I wanted to just get a sense of, how Frey developed a little bit. It is still a family-run business that, yes, is owned by Costa Maine Brands, but it still has that family personality and touch, and I think that's important for our customers to know. So tell me a little bit about your history there, and then we'll get to some of the products that you guys offer.
Yep. So like you were saying, it's a family business. So my grandfather started the business, and now my aunt, uncle, and father continue to work there as well. I started working as soon as I could at the age of 12. Then had to take a 1 year off because obviously they changed some labor laws. So then started back up when I was 14. Doing a little bit of everything. Started mowing, weed eating, fixing pallets. Like I said, start to finish, I did it a little bit of all.
Well, I think that's the other piece, is that soil and working with soil and mulch is just a part of who you are.
Mm-hmm.
That's
yeah, I mean, I enjoy it. Like I said, he got me started at my grandfather, so I've loved it ever since. And it's changed a lot over time. In 2001, we started doing custom mixes for greenhouse growers and operations like that. And that really started to boost our sales as well. 2008 was a little bit of a tough year, obviously, for everybody. When the housing market goes down, mulch and soil sales tend to go down. But the one thing that actually helped us was that mix side of the business, because people were still growing vegetables, still growing flowers. So that continued to grow. And then 2017, Coast of Maine came in, and it was a little bit of the best of both worlds. We had a nice production facility. You guys were streamlined, trying to go national, and it just kind of worked out, meshed very well, I think.
Well, it's an interesting thing because, you had two small companies coming together and different philosophies on things, different packaging, different brands. It's never easy with that stuff. I think that we've really hit our stride, and I think that we're doing great things. And we've even been able to manage raw material supply issues, COVID issues, and that goes back. And I say this all the time because I think, obviously I know the staff in Maine better because that's where I started 15 years ago. But the same thing, as I look in the background again, is that, it's people that put us there, and it's the hard work of the Freys that put us there too. I mean, I think of, obviously there's a history there with your granddad starting it. But then you do have Jamie, Carl, and your dad, Ernie. Kind of give me a brief rundown of what each one of them does.
Yep. So they took over there in the early 2000s, basically running the whole show. Jamie has run the office and managed like the trucking routes, when we're going to make product, what we're going to make, and on that side of things, because the orders coming in. Carl would oversee the trucks on the site. He would oversee their maintenance. He would also oversee the mix line, and continues to do so now. To make sure we're making the mixes properly, to the standards that our customers expect.
Yep.
And then my dad, he kind of runs more of the retail baggage side of things and those operations over there. So that's where we're bagging, our topsoil, or the mixes, our mulches and all of that. And then he's also loading the trucks and make sure the right material is going out to the customer as fast as we can possibly go.
That's where
we're actually starting to really see it now here with, again, combining both brands. I mean, I just did the Roar show there, and I mean, customers are buying mixes, they're buying mulches, they're buying our topsoil, they're buying Castine, even sold some Stonington there. So, I mean, it's going well. It's nice to have a whole complementary line, top to bottom.
I think that's again, as I see it and see what we've been able to create, because managing all these different brands is not easy. And, Frey has a great reputation down in Pennsylvania and surrounding states. Coast of Maine has a great reputation. Our stuff was all approved for organic growers. Frey just never really did the paperwork. There wasn't something that was important or interesting. I don't know, interesting isn't the right word, but it wasn't a part of the push, right? And it wasn't the packaging.
We had organic inputs, but yeah, we didn't do the paperwork to say, hey, this is 100% organic. I know John, our old mixologist, he kind of made a couple organic mixes that we would take the fertilizer out or something like that.
Yeah.
But that usually would work with Fertrell, a company that is very big on supplying us with organic inputs.
So, and it's also, us coming down and then setting up our practices combined with Frey's practices. There's always a shift, and it's not easy. I think that the work ethic, in your family is incredible. They're hard workers. They get product out on time. Managed a lot. And what I said this last year was a big raw material supply issue. We did it better than any other soil company. And, I'm proud of the way that our entire staff reacted to everything. So it's great to have people understand that, look, it's the people that make it. We're doing the best with the raw materials that we have, and we make outstanding products. And that gets back to your family and your family history. When I look, tell me a little bit about the Frey soils, because we've got a bagged soil line, and we have the Frey professional mix, and then we've got the topsoil. Tell a little bit about those soils and how they're set up, and how retailers or consumers might be interested in those.
Yep. So back in the late 80s, as you know, in this area, there's a lot of mushroom houses down in the Kennett Square area. Technically is the mushroom capital of the world. Maybe not anymore, but it was at its one day. And because of that, there was so much mushroom compost. So these manufacturers were growing these mushrooms and then just basically taking this spent mushroom compost, which mushrooms don't take any really nutrition to grow, and they were sitting it outside. Laurel Valley actually approached my grandfather because we started bagging mulch from our mill industry here.
Yep.
And so he approached my grandfather, was like, hey, look, I think this is a great input. You guys might be able to bag it. And that's actually how Frey topsoil was created. At the start, it was 100%, organic mushroom compost coming down from Kennett Square, which it basically still is today. Still getting it from Laurel Valley, the same source. 30 plus years later. And so we've seen that kind of grow though along the way, because we found leaf compost, we get aged pine bark, and we mix this for a planting mix. So over time, we've created new mixes and other mixes from that mushroom compost base. And then again, some other natural and organic inputs. So that kind of created the soil line. And then I said, because we had our sawmill, my grandfather actually started selling the what do they call that? Byproducts.
The byproduct. Yeah.
Yep, he started selling the byproducts of the sawmill. So that's where we started getting the hardwood mulch. And then he was always traveling to see, hey, look, what's next? What's coming out? And he went around the area, saw people were starting to dye, like light colored mulches, black, brown, and even red for a time. Yeah, I know we did talk about bringing blue on, but I think my family talked them out of that one. So I'm kind of glad we didn't do that. But like I said, it was years and years of him going out there, seeing what the industry was doing, seeing what was changing or coming out, and then embracing that down here and bringing that down here to do it the way we like to do things. Very high quality. I know mulch is mulch to most people, but I mean, our mulch is the best in the market. And you see that when you actually open a bag. So
let's talk about the mulch products and the different ones that Frey offers. I know right now, talk about the hardwood mulch.
Yep. So the hardwood mulch is just aged hardwood bark from a lot of places throughout Pennsylvania. And what we do is we actually bring that in, age it for about a year on site, turning it, rotating it, and then we grind it again. So it's a triple ground, very fine particle size hardwood mulch, all natural, again, just 100% bark, so no additives, no chemicals, technically organic, but again, there's no paperwork done to prove so.
Let me just share my screen. I mean, people that this will be a podcast, but it'll also be video. So we have what I wanted to point out. So you talked about the hardwood mulch that's down here. The brand name is actually Four Corners. These come in 2 cubic foot sizes. And so people on these particular mulches, they may not notice Frey because the brand is Four Corners.
Correct.
So you've got, yeah, go ahead.
The history on that, we had actually 2 different brands, Four Corners, and yeah, we still have both, Four Corners and Twin Oaks. Twin Oaks was our larger size mulch bags, and that was actually based off of trees that were actually growing here on site. The Four Corners came from my grandparents' love of the Southwest. They'd actually traveled out there to the Four Corners. They really loved the Southwest, had a lot of that decoration in their home. That's kind of where that one stemmed from for them.
No, I love that history that's in there. And then we've got your black and your brown mulch. Those are both dyed mulches.
Yep.
Are those triple ground or double ground? How are they?
Those are double ground. We bring that product in, we age it for a little bit, and then we dye it and then have it sit again. So it is double ground, and the colors last very long compared to a lot of other products on the market. We actually use a liquid dye where a lot of other companies are now using like a powder. So when they grind it, they'll actually mix the powder in. So it coats it, but it doesn't really saturate it like ours does.
Yeah, so it'll, as you said, it'll retain the color longer, which is a huge benefit. And then we've got the whole pine bark. We've got the mini nuggets. We got the pine bark mulch and the pine bark nuggets. Can you kind of tell us the difference between those 3?
Yep. So the pine bark mini nuggets, they're about a 2-inch diameter and smaller. Actually, the bark of a pine tree. And then the regular nuggets, they're a little bit bigger, up to about a 4-inch diameter. And again, they're just kind of like just the bark of the outside of a pine tree, where the pine bark mulch is a little different. It kind of takes those smaller particle sizes and some of the cambium, and we grind it up and then mix that in there. And it's kind of like a more fine grade mulch, similar to like the consistency of a shredded hardwood, whereas the nuggets are very porous, have a lot of airspace in between them, very decorative.
Yeah, I mean, you guys get great kudos on your mulch.
Yeah.
And
it all comes from the southern pines. I know they're very popular. We actually send truckloads of it, up to Canada, up to, New York. Like they seem to love it up there.
And then you guys in recent years, you didn't do this all along. You decided to do a premium line, and the bags are prettier. Tell us a little bit. Let's go over quickly, just a brief kind of what each one is, what it does, because I've got the Dehydrated Cow Manure here.
Yep. So this is actually from a local dairy company here, Kreider's Farms. They're based out of Lancaster, Pennsylvania. They have several different farms throughout the county, and it's 100% that their cow manure mixed in there. It's dehydrated, so it's a little bit finer, a little bit lighter than your average cow manures. Very good if you're doing like a lawn planting to do some reseeding that. What I would do is I would put it out there in the fall, kind of let it sit out there for a little bit, and then in the spring you can plant your seed and get them to grow.
They can, and you can use it in your vegetable garden and your flower gardens too.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, it's peat free. So
Yep.
It's a peat free compost as well. Again, you can add it into a raised bed, vegetable garden. What I like to do is add it in the fall, because sometimes it is a little bit higher nutrient content. So add it in the fall, let it kind of establish itself in that bed, and then plant in the spring.
Yeah, now's the time this fall is to be preparing
exactly.
Sure. And then we've got the leaf compost.
Yep. This is personally one of my favorite ones, just because of added benefits that people really can't see unless you're down there at the plant. If you go and run your hands through this pile of leaf compost that we have, it is full of earthworms. So there is an added bonus of earthworm castings all through this. It is also a peat-free and vegan mix. So it's the only mix really out there on the market that is vegan and peat-free that I've seen. So again, very popular for that. It's great to add to a garden, raised bed, or a lawn planting. You can even do some container gardening. A little bit more acidic, so don't use 100% this, just because it is leaf compost, decomposed.
Do we actually know the pH on that? We should list it on here probably.
I'm sure we have that because I'm pretty sure Nicole has tested it.
Yeah, no, I know we do. We just don't have it here, but that's just something, as I look at these things, part of this interview process and looking at the website helps us make sure we're putting the right information out there too. Yeah. So, and then we've got, you mentioned the mushroom compost. We already talked about the mushroom compost to a certain degree.
Yep. So again, this, like I said, started back in the late 80s. Again, they had a lot of mushroom compost there and they didn't know what to do with it. So we incorporated it into our topsoil. But again, like it's just such a great product. We wanted it 100% by itself. So this is 100% organic mushroom compost from Kennett Square here. Again, locally sourced, locally bagged, very high in nutrient content. So great to add to a raised bed. Great to add to your garden or your lawn. This one you can kind of add any time of year. The pH is going to be pretty base or neutral to like what you need for like a 6.0 range.
Yeah.
So again, very good on that.
And then we've got the Frey topsoil. Now this is the premium topsoil.
Yes.
And so this is the higher end topsoil of what we would normally offer.
Yep. Yeah. So this actually incorporates, our 4 premium, compost. We take leaf compost, we take mushroom compost, and then we actually take some aged pine bark and some peat moss, and we mix that all together. So it is a much lighter, finer topsoil than our, twin oak topsoil or even the mushroom compost and leaf compost by themselves. It's again, it has a almost like a, I'm trying to think of the word, but like I said, like a much finer particle size. It's lighter. It's great again to add to your garden, to your raised bed, anything like that is what I would use with this one. I've actually know a lot of customers that will take this and the castine and get really amazing results from it.
Yeah, and I don't want to confuse people with us, going over to the castine, the Coast of Maine products, but anytime that you can add more biological diversity to your soil, it's a good thing.
And that brings all of them, that we have here in one bag.
Yeah, I mean, it's
on the fly line.
This is and it's it's funny because people think of topsoil and it doesn't have a value proposition. There's somewhere people expect topsoil to be inexpensive, and in back in the day there were topsoils that were just stripping land and cheap topsoil. Yeah. This is
a lot of topsoil on the market is clay, and other stuff, and just very, very cheap inputs thrown into a bag, where ours are the the highest end of mushroom compost. We actually use a little bit of silt, so again, it's nothing very bad.
And then we'll go down to the planting mix. The professional planting mix. Tell me a little bit about how that works, what it's best for, and how it's made.
Yep. So we realized, our compost were really good for, gardens, raised beds, lawns, but we didn't have anything that kind of fit that like tree or shrub planting. So what we did is we actually took a little bit heavier bark content. So there's about 60 to 70% aged pine bark in here. And then we also take in the mushroom and leaf compost and mix those in. So it still is a heavier mix, but it is a little more porous, has a little more airspace because of that aged pine bark in there. So again, it's great for trees and shrubs. If you're doing an orchard, I recommend a bag of this with the native soil, about a 50-50 blend. It'll give it some nutrients, but it'll also hold the roots there in structural place. and give them room to grow.
Yeah, I think that's the piece is the structure of it and the ability, you know, with the pine bark in there, that the roots will develop easier in that soil too.
Yep, and it also helps out with the pH, makes it a little bit more acidic, which trees and shrubs naturally like.
And then the professional potting mix.
Yeah, so this actually stems from our Mix 300 itself. We have, you know, hundreds of growers in the area, in the country now, all throughout the country now, that are using Mix 300 to grow their annuals, their bedding plants, their veggies, you know, all the stuff you see in a greenhouse. So they also wanted to be able to sell that mix to their customers. So what we had done is we actually came out with the retail packaging in a 2 cubic foot, a 32 quart, and a 16 quart. That way they could buy our professional mix for their growing and then offer that same mix to their customers.
Yeah, I actually love this, and the packaging is nice too. And I know the feedback is terrific on that, and people have had
Oh, I sold a lot of that yesterday.
That's awesome.
Actually, yeah, the one customer, she wants to do a co-branding on there. She buys like 5 to 6 truckloads of just that mix.
Oh, that's amazing.
Yeah,
That's cool. Who is that?
Perfect Pots here in Lancaster.
See, I love that local. We got to do that. We should talk offline on that too. And then the soil conditioner. This is basically pine bark, right?
Yeah, so actually this is our input for the mixes on the pine side. So it's AS40 is what we call them, or 1/2 inch pine bark, and it's
Sure.
aged. That way it's not going to rob nitrogen. You can actually take this and peat moss and recreate your own mixes. What I personally love to do though is I line my raised bed, my garden, and my flower beds with this, because again, it doesn't rob nitrogen like some other mulches will.
Sure.
And then it also really helps prevent weed growth and will hold moisture in place as well.
So
And it looks amazing.
it does look amazing, and it is again using it as a, you know, what people think of as a mulch. You know, we think of you. We looked at your mulch line. People look at mulches about just, you know, suppressing some weeds and retaining moisture and protecting your bed. This is going to actually add some biology to it. And because it's broken down, because it's aged, as you said, it's not going to rob nitrogen. So it's a terrific product. So you can use it as a mulch too. It's
Absolutely, yeah, and that's what I personally do here at my house. And then again, I said I line my beds with it. But also, if you have like a really clayey soil, or you're planting again a tree
Yep.
or a shrub, and you want to help give it some, you know, root space to grow, this is great to help break up that soil. That's kind of historically what we've sold it as. I've just been trying to show others the usage of it. But again, it can help break up that soil. You can recreate your own mixes, or you can top dress, you know, your flower bed or garden.
I'm gonna go. I'm just certain people, as they're listening to us, won't realize that I'm going and looking online and using this as a guide for us to talk. And then we've got the professional mixes.
Yep. So in '99, my grandfather installed our bag house with an automated bagger. So that was a very big investment, and that was just focused on the retail. At the same time, a salesperson, John Rowe, approached him about coming up with his own mixes. And he said, "Hey, I don't have the time right now, but call me in 2 years."
Yep.
John told me 2 years to the date, he got a call that morning from my grandfather, and he said, "Hey, I need you down here. Let's go over this mix thing."
Oh
So
my,
in
that's
2001,
Yep.
like John said, it was literally to the date, you know. And so John came down. He had worked with Fafford, which had made their own mixes for many years, and he knew, you know, very detailed accounts of what they made. So we used the inputs we could get, his knowledge, and we started recreating our own mixes, you know, for annuals, perennials, mums, trees, shrubs, hanging baskets, you name it. We kind of came up with a mix for it. Again, this is the Mix 300, which I was just talking about previously. It is our most popular mix by far. There again are thousands of people in the country now using this mix to grow their annuals, bedding plants, you name it, a little bit of everything. I have people that grow mums in there, kind of one and all right here. Again, it's a combination of peat moss, perlite. We add cocoa coir, which a lot of companies do not do anymore.
Yep.
Small fertilizer charge and a wetting agent to kind of keep everything moist.
Yeah, that is a core mix, and I know that you guys used to do a lot of mixes. I've seen that book. You used to do a lot of stuff. Not doing that now. Sometimes, depending on the size, that we do some specialty blends, but it's rare.
Yes,
this is what the core of what we do here.
it is. And obviously, last year we cut off, custom mixes more so because of our raw material issues, not because we didn't want to do them. If someone comes up, and it's warranted, we will obviously look into a custom mix.
Yeah, we'll take each one as we go. And I think that's the biggest thing, is being able to say what's best for the customer, and can we as a company do it effectively? So that's all those things come into play. And then the 400 mix.
Yep. So the 400 mix historically was our mum mix. And then I know a lot of customers were using it for other stuff as well. So what we've actually done the last 2 years is started doing some trials with growing mums all summer long ourselves. And this past year, Nicole actually grew several different varieties of mums in 4 different mixes. And we came up with a little bit of a new Frey Mix 400. I had about 5% perlite in there historically. So we took that out, and actually we reintroduced compost and sand at a 10% amount. So now it kind of gives it that airspace with the sand, but the bulk density also went up. So the nutrient uptake is much better. So now customers are actually going to see better mum growth from this Mix 400.
Yeah, that's awesome. And there's obviously mums right now are a huge season going on.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then the 500 mix.
Yeah, so this one was historically for perennials. A little more bark, you're closer to about 60% aged pine bark in this one. Still has peat moss, coir, and perlite. Again, I've actually talked to some growers recently that are using it for houseplants and aeroids, because that bark is a little bit chunkier. So they're starting to do like indoor plants and other stuff using the Mix 500. But it also works great outdoors and larger containers. You're doing a tree or shrub, something like that. This can also work for that.
That is awesome. Then we have the Nursery Mix Nx6.
Yep. So then there's some growers that just want to grow, trees, shrubs in a gallon-sized container or larger. This mix is perfect for them. It's about 80% aged pine bark, about a 1/2 inch to 3/4 inch particle size. And we also incorporate some sand, peat moss, and coir for that bulk density. So it's really good if they're also going to have stuff sit year over year, which some nurseries will, or they're going to be growing them for 3 years. This mix won't break down as fast as some of the others with heavier peat moss. So again, if you're in a larger container doing trees, shrubs, that kind of thing, this mix is perfect for you.
That's awesome. And I think we're missing one of the mixes on here. What am I missing?
So we're actually retooling some things because of what we've done to Mix 400. We're going to start reintroducing Mix 200 again. And because our peat supply is also back to normal.
No, and that's been a thing with everybody. Peat supply it's a supply issue. We've adjusted things. The cool thing about Frey, Coast of Maine, and the staffing that we have is to be able to say, okay, how do we adjust? How do we do the grow outs? How do we blend some different things, come out with the same efficacy with a slightly different blend? But now that we've done such a good job of sourcing peat and the raw materials, we're going to have an even better year in 2023. It's awesome. And then we do super sack and bulk quantities. Can you kind of describe how we do that?
Yep. So I know a lot of growers, they have used super sacks, which is about a 60 cubic foot tote. Stands about, a little over 5 feet tall on a pallet. There's 1 to 2 on a pallet, depending on which mix you get. And again, it's a little bit easier to just kind of take a scoop out of and use, but you're going to have the equipment to use it. So a lot of these growers, you know, they have like an overhead hanger where they can actually cut and dump this mix into their potter or pot filler.
Yep.
It's great for any kind of operation like that. You can also store it a little bit easier. And it is a little bit cheaper because there's less labor involved.
No.
We can also do bulk mulches. We have a triaxle. Usually that's local deliveries, you know, within, you know, a couple 100 miles. And then also we have walking floors, and obviously depending on where you are, we can deliver. We need to get a freight quote. But when we've delivered bulk up to, you know, Long Island, out to Ohio, we're doing super sacks up to Minnesota, Wisconsin now, all the way down to, I think, Florida, and possibly, if things go right, we're going to be selling these mixes in Puerto Rico.
Wow. I didn't know that. Did somebody just reach out to us then?
So Rich, Frank and I have been working with a distributor they know down there. Now, Puerto Rico has a little bit concerns on anything with compost or sand.
Sure.
So that mix is a few of our mixes, but the Mix 300, the aeration, the 500, and the soil conditioner, I think are going to be very popular. And they have a lot of growers down there struggling to get mixed because of the peat issues that we've been having.
Yep.
So they're just looking for something right now.
So we've got about 4 minutes left. And what I want to reinforce also on top of this is buy local. You know, Costa Maine brands and the Frey Group soils, we were buy local. That's how we grew up in a sense. And we are very loyal to local retailers. Our marketing all goes through the retailers, drives traffic back to the retailers. Costa Maine has for a few years now had a growing good program. And now we're doing the same thing with Frey. It'll be up on the website later today, hopefully. And that program is designed to obviously educate kids, because it's the way it's set up is for a school. A lot of schools have school gardens, and for them, they need the resources, and local retailers a lot of times give a lot more to their community than you would think. They're asked for a lot of things. So we said, hey, look, if at Costa Maine and Frey, we're able to offset some of those costs to the local retailers, connect the community, and create a better sense of community and educate kids at the same time, we all win. So we're going to be doing that going forward with Frey. And what products, if you're doing a school garden, in which of the Frey products would you think of first in promoting for growing in school gardens? They're going to be doing vegetables most of the time.
So what I would actually recommend is a combination of our Frey's potting mix, the purple bag, and then the Frey's premium topsoil. Those kind of incorporate the best of, you know, our company. You know, the premium topsoil has all of our, you know, compost in there, along with our aged pine fines and some peat moss. And then the professional potting mix is our Mix 300, which is what everybody in the county is basically using to grow the plants around them.
No, that's awesome. And then, you know,
and that should be easy for them to find as well, which I know is also a thing sometimes.
Well, that's one of the things that does happen. You're going to have times when the store won't have it, but we're going to do the best we can. And the cool thing is that we can mix and match and make sure the schools are taken care of. So I want to thank you for joining me today. Everybody should know that if you're actually watching this on video, Dustin took this picture behind me. I think it's beautiful. And what time of day, what time in the morning was that?
I'm actually not even sure. I just remember coming up over the hill there, and as you get up over the hill, that's the view you see. And it was just perfect lighting and timing. So I pulled over quick and took the picture. That was on like an iPhone 4. Like 10 years ago too, on top of it all. So that really shows you how good the lighting was.
Yeah, no, it's awesome.
But behind me, I'm not sure if they can see really, but like behind me, all of these plants are grown in a combination of either Frey mixes and Coast of Maine together. That's what I've done. So I've basically brought them in and mixed them together. and I have, you know, fiddle leaf fig to my right here, that's in 400, and then I have a bird of paradise that is in a combination of Bar Harbor and the MDI. So they both are killing it, and all my other plants are doing very well. So
That
shows you what
look great. I
love.
love the combination of Cosamane and Frey. Thank you for being here. We're running out of time. Hopefully we can also get our staff to listen to this too and educate all of us. Thanks, man.
Thank you. Yeah.